Thanks for your interest in this video summary. This paper addresses the concept of integrated crop livestock systems for ecosystem services, carbon sequestration, and agricultural resilience to climate change. The number of farms in America rose dramatically since the Civil War, up until approximately the Second World War, and it peaked in 1935. And then a number of farms have dramatically declined since. And we've seemed to have reached a trough down below at approximately 2 million farms. The land in farms has also changed dramatically since the Civil War, and it peaked in 1950, and then the land in farms is tending to trough at some level, approximately 320 million hectares. The average size of any individual farm, of course, the farms vary widely, whether it's small farm or large farm, but has changed dramatically from approximately 50 hectares to around 180 hectares per farm. Corn has been a key crop in American history for a long period of time. Ever since 1900, we've seen somewhat of a decline in corn cropland acres until approximately the arrival of the Beatles. And since the Beatles and the Rolling Stones arrived, we've seen a dramatic increase in corn acreage. Maybe that association isn't so clear. But what is clear is that the corn grain yield has increased dramatically since World War II, and that's rightly due to the genetics as well as fertilization strategies on this land. The swine inventory gives a good example of how livestock has changed over time. Starting in 1959, there were a very low number of head per farm, and there was a change that was occurring since the 1970s where the number of farms declined dramatically, but the size of the farms having swine on the farm increased dramatically. So there's this large nonlinear association that occurs, and it also occurred for the dairy inventory as well, where we had very few dairy per farm in 1959, and it increased dramatically to very few farms with large number of dairy on any one farm. When soil is tilled and depleted of its organic resources, conventional till cropland has relatively low nitrogen mineralization potential, and it tends to decline with depth as for natural processes. But when we introduce pastures into the rotation with crops, we can increase the nitrogen mineralization potential and increase the available carbon and organic resources near the surface. So there are options for changing the trajectory. Specialization of agriculture began in the United States following World War II. It was manifested in earnest with an exponential path towards the end of the 20th century and continues today. Livestock inventories on larger confined feeding operations, grain farms with expansive land areas, and consolidation of animal and grain processing facilities provide clear evidence of this dramatic shift during the past 75 years. Deterioration of natural resources has occurred along with the specialization, and technological fixes through incentives and regulations have only attempted to abate those consequences. However, it's becoming increasingly clear that diversification of agriculture must be implemented at local, regional, and national levels to overcome the ecological deficiencies of simplified and specialized approaches to agriculture. Integrating crops and livestock into more holistic agricultural systems can lead to synergies that promote climate resilience, risk abatement, long-term stability of agroecosystems, including for profitability and ecological functioning. We reviewed recent literature to suggest alternative approaches to the current track of agricultural specialization. In total, we're responsible for our actions, and so we think that there's an opportunity to change our actions. Future agricultural production, especially under the proposed increased climate variability, may very well depend on how well we incorporate ecological knowledge into modern farming systems. On behalf of my co-author, John Hendrickson at the USDA ARS in Mandan, North Dakota, I thank you for your attention. I hope that this paper gives you some insight and ways for the future to improve our agricultural systems. Thank you.